Well, hello, everyone. We're excited. Yes, welcome to 2023 and Happy New Year. Happy King Day that happened on yesterday. And welcome to season 8. It's another exciting episode on Issues and Answers with yours truly, Honorable Valencia Stovall. And today is January the 17th. Our discussion today is New Year, New Beginnings. And of course, we'll be touching on several different topics of interest. So you're listening to the new WCEG Network, WCEG Talk Radio.com. We are the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. And I must give you this disclaimer. The topics and opinions are those of the show hosts and guests and not of WCEG Network. Like us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram at WCEG Network, and like us on Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio and at WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. Tell a friend and tell a neighbor. Tell them to tune in now. We are live, coming to you live. Well, our last episode, of course, you know that we heard from Mr. Ron Mack, who is an author and educator and a historian. You know, he had 3 books. He had a 3-book series about a dark time in world history, which is A Voyage of Despondency, African Holocaust. And so we had a very good conversation with him, talking about his series, how he ended up deciding to write a book. And I'm gonna tell you, this book is not for the faint of heart. Reading those books, I've gotten to book 1, finished book 1. Working on book 2. So that's part of my list to get through that 3rd book. But you can find his book, A Voyage of Despondency, African Holocaust. You can definitely find it on Amazon. .com, and make sure you go and support what he's doing when it comes down to being an author. All right, and of course, I celebrated my birthday, y'all. Yay! On December the 16th. Thank God for one more year of grace. I also share with everyone my discovery of being a part of the Yoruba tribe from Nigeria and the Mende tribe from Sierra Leone in Africa. And so if you have not taken the Ancestry test, I'm not talking about the one Ancestry.com, but there's another one. It's a little bit more costly, but if whatever you want to know, you want to find out the exact tribe, then you're able to take that test. And AfricanAncestry.com is where you would take that test, where you order the test, and then they'll send it to you. You do the swabs, and you can get the paternal test, or they call it the patriclan test, which is the paternal test, or the matriclan, which is the maternal clan, that test. And so we were able to get Dad to do both the mother and the father's side. So it was very exciting waiting for those results to come in, because, you know, we just wonder so much. We know we're not from here in America, and just wonder, you know, how do we get here, and what was the tribe? So like I said, on my dad's mom's side, which is Dotson, they're the Mende tribe. And of course, for those who might not remember, Amistad, which was a movie about the African slaves that overtook the ship, and also ended up the ship captain, who was Cuban, tried to fool them and went into the U.S. territories. And when he got to the U.S. territories, they were able to convince those officials there that they had been kidnapped, because of course, it was against the law to be able to transport slaves at that particular time. And they went to court and won the case. And so they were able to go back to Sierra Leone, to where they were originally stolen from. So that's a very interesting, and I wonder sometimes, I guess I must got that fight from that side of the family. And on my dad's side is the Yoruba tribe of Nigeria. And I tell you, it's so amazing. I shared this in the last episode, but just to know, I have been working with a friend of mine. He's now has been appointed as a high chief, sworn as a high chief. And we have been working on projects about the Yoruba tribe. Even when I was elected official, did a resolution for the Yoruba tribe. Had no idea that I actually was a part of the Yoruba tribe. Now that's what you call very interesting. And so we did that. And then when I found out I got my results back, I was like, what? So this is really what, all the purposeful things that we have been talking about, projects over in going over to Ogun State in Nigeria. I'll tell you, I'm just still blown away. And that was latter part of last year when we found out, I think October last year when we found out. And so I'm excited about my trip. I have already planned. I hadn't locked in the date yet, but I plan on going to visit and put my feet on the soil of the ancestors. And so, but I did want to say that even with the country of Nigeria, that's a blessed country with 44 different types of minerals. I didn't know they had that many minerals. And when we talk about economic development and being able to share and being able to do what we need to do here in America with doing business over there. And some of y'all probably remember me mentioning before when I was elected official that I had question about why the state of Georgia did not have a business office over in Nigeria and actually in the continent of Africa. And there really was no real answer that they did not have one. And so, that's one of the projects that I'm definitely working on seeing how to be able to connect both countries. Now, also in the news I read, there was the United States government. I recently saw a video where they had an investment to build a sustainable lead Nigeria consulate on Victoria Island in Lagos. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there as far as what's going on that part. But okay, also last year, there were 2 runoff elections. My friend Linda Pritchett was elected to city council for the city of South Fulton. Yay, Linda! And so everyone who knows Linda know why we were so excited for her. Like we were the ones who actually won the election ourselves. And also, the senator was reelected to serve 6 years. U.S. senator was elected to serve 6 years. As you all know, politics is a part of our lives. And so whether you like the players or not, whether you like the candidates or not, it's still a part of it. And everything we do is centered around policies and the people who implement them. So you have to stay involved and keep asking questions to those who are elected to make sure they are held accountable. An informed voter is a smart voter. So always remember that an informed voter is a smart voter. And I always say, hashtag do your job. And that's what you all are to be telling your elected officials. Make sure that they're doing their job. So, of course, the new legislative session started on January the 9th, this past Monday. It started with a new Speaker of the House and a new Lieutenant Governor. So for those who don't know, the Speaker of the House is the one that convenes the meeting on the House side of the chambers, and the Lieutenant Governor on the Senate side. This will be another interesting session. And of course, I attended the annual Wild Hog Supper on last Sunday, which is a traditional event that's usually held prior to the start of the legislative session. It's a time to network and a lot of good eating. You wouldn't believe this. And if you go back to my Facebook page, you'll see some pictures that I had taken about, actually people had already started eating the hog, but they actually roast the hog and have a hog sitting on different platters around the event. So it's, like I said, it's a really good event. I also saw a lot of my former colleagues and friends that I met during the time I was a legislator. And just so you know, this week is budget hearings for the governor and department heads. So this is the time that the governor and department heads are submitting to the legislators about what they would like to see in their budget. And how that process goes, a long process. And this is for the amended budget for the fiscal year. So what happens is they go through this process, and then the governor presents to the legislative body on the House and the Senate. This is what I would like for to spend the money on for the state of Georgia. Then the House looks at it, and the House is the budget always starts in the House. And so the House members look at it, they add, take away, agree, and then they pass it, and it goes over to the Senate chamber. And then the Senate goes through the same process. We agree, we don't agree. And then from there, it goes to the governor's office if it's not. But it always ends up being a committee that's set up to be able to kind of talk about that, the differences between the two. I don't think I can remember a time where they both agreed and it went straight to the governor's office. That never happens. So because there's so many needs, and then if there's a surplus with the state budget, everybody want a little something extra, and everybody have a need for a little something extra. So we'll see how that turns out. All right, on this past Friday, the state of Georgia's 38th annual M.L. King Jr. Holiday Tribute took place on the north wing of the state capitol. It was hosted by the M.L. King Advisory Council, which you all have heard me mention before, that I was appointed by the late Speaker David Ralston, and it's for a 4-year term of being on this prestigious council. And during that, when I doing our maybe second consecutive meeting, I was elected as a vice chair. So I'm the vice chair of the M.L. King Jr. Advisory Council, and our chair is Representative Billy Mitchell. The program was emceed by former Representative D. Dawkins Hagler. She did an outstanding job with keeping us on point, and a little comedy in there as well. And we had performances by the Atlanta Board Choir. Over there was some great performance. It was singing, and it was even had an instrumental part with the selection as well. Governor Kemp, he gave remarks and presented a proclamation to the King family, which was accepted by Ms. Ferris Christine Watkins, who is the granddaughter of Dr. King's sister, or be Dr. King's grandniece. There were also remarks from the newly elected Speaker, John Burns. The keynote speaker was Christopher Womack, who was the president and chair of Georgia Power. There were 4 awards presented. So this event, they recognized 4 individuals across the, they necessarily have to be in the state of Georgia, but just 4 individuals who've done an outstanding job based on some memorial awards that were established by the previous council. And so there were, the first recipient was one of the individuals that I nominated for the award, and she was awarded the Rita Jackson Samuels Founders Award. And it's none other than Wande Okunorin Meadows of Little Ones Early Learning Center and the founder of Hand, Heart, Soul Project. Yay, Wande! And you all know that I partner with Little Ones and Hand, Heart, and Soul Project with our annual Clayton County Back to School Block Party that we've done for the past 5 years now. And so I was just excited to be able to nominate her based on those criteria for the Rita Samuel Awards, Founders Award. The other recipients of the awards, I definitely need to make sure I mention them. Mr. J.T. Johnson, who was involved in the civil rights movement in the 1960s. He was a part of the group who integrated the pool at Monson's Motor Lodge in St. Augustine, Florida. Now, you all, what was so significant about this was that the pool, because the pool manager at that hotel did not want to integrate, they were so low down and dirty, they poured acid in the pool to keep those Black people from getting back in the pool and swimming again. Now, how cruel can that be? Well, guess what? That particular incident was filmed, and the footage of it went national and international. It drew that much attention. And within weeks, the 1964 Civil Rights Act was passed. So this particular incident that happened of cruelty was what catapulted within those weeks that the 1964 Civil Rights Act was passed. Also recognized, another recipient was Reverend Fred Taylor, who was also involved in the Civil Rights Movement. And in 1985, he was the one that coordinated the big boycott of Winn-Dixie supermarkets. So some of you all who might not be from the Atlanta area might not know about Winn-Dixie. But those of us from Atlanta area who've been here for a while, we know about Winn-Dixie supermarket. And I never knew that he was the one that coordinated that boycott, because I do remember it. And the final recipient was Senator Emanuel Jones. He was the one that was instrumental in introducing the legislation to form the M.L. King Jr. Advisory Council. So we appreciate his work and others who worked with him, and Governor Deal for signing this particular legislation into law to allow for a council to be able to take on the work of the King, of the legacy of Dr. King. And so this should, so you all know what is the duty of the council. It was created to promote the life, legacy, and teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The council is able to further this mission through programs and educational efforts made possible through the generous contributions of individuals and corporations. So this particular council is a 501c3 organization, and it is housed up under the auspices of the Department of Community Affairs. So DCA is actually the one which works with us as the council, sure that we have the support that we need. So Commissioner Nunn was there on Friday as well. Got a chance to speak to him, and he actually took some pictures with some of the students. And so, of course, you know, I just cannot get off of this one from Friday. I'm so excited that our students, the SGA students from Seven Pillars Career Academy Charter School in Clayton County, were able to serve as ambassadors. And what was so historic about this is this was the first time since the council has been established that middle and high school students were able to serve as ambassadors. So they got a chance to greet their guests, pass out, you know, make sure they had the program, knew where their seating were. And so it was a great opportunity for them. Some of them, their first time being at the Capitol, and actually first time being at a commemorative service on behalf of for recognizing Dr. King's legacy. And so, and then to top it off, this was the real top. We were able to even get Governor Kemp. He was on his way back in. Of course, you know, he was dealing with a lot with the recovery from the storm. And he happened to be walking back into the building, and I saw him, and I was like, Governor Kemp, will you please come and take a picture with our students from Seven Pillars Career Academy? And he said, sure. I said, won't take that long. I said, we just right over here in this room. And he came in, he took pictures, he talked to the students. And so that meant a lot. And I explained to the students that that was very historical by itself. Not everyone gets a chance to take pictures with the governor of the state of Georgia, and also get a chance to talk with them. So that was another great experience for our students. And I want to give a shout out to Mr. Ron Mack, who was one of the advisors, the school advisors, and Mrs. Tina Maxby, one of the advisors as well. So, you know, Seven Pillars is in its 4th year of existence. So it's still a baby school. And so we're growing, but, you know, with support and being able to expose our young people is key, and it's important. I think about all the exposure my dad, Stovall, was able to give to my sisters and I, with being able to be involved in politics and going around the city, going around the state. And that exposure meant a lot because it made us have more confidence in what we were talking about, being exposed in community meetings, My dad had me as secretary of the NPU Neighborhood Planning Unit planning unit in Y District in the city of Atlanta, which just took up the southeast part, the southeast side of Atlanta. I didn't have a clue. He had me being the secretary, but that exposure. Now, who would have thought years and years later, fast forward, that I would have been serving as elected official down at the state capitol? Never thought that, but it comes from exposure. So it's important for me and my family to make sure that we are able to provide those exposure to any of our young people, even adults, being able to expose them to what's going on when it comes to politics and the government. So we're excited about that opportunity for Seven Pillars. And in Clayton County, we had our Clayton County MLK Junior Parade on yesterday. So if y'all missed it, check out my Facebook page and you should be able to see that video. I'll probably repost it again. It was a very nice parade. It was so peaceful. You know, I didn't expect anything different, especially with all the law enforcement that was there, that was present. But it was a very peaceful parade. We had a good time. The weather was great. The temperature was great. It didn't rain. So it was just really, really nice. And I want to give a special shout out and thanks to Representative Rhonda Burno and to my sister Sharon Daniel. They pushed and pushed because at first it didn't look like we were going to have a parade, but they kept asking, kept pushing, and finally we were able to get it. And thanks to the city of Jonesboro and city manager Ricky Clark, and to the mayor pro tem and city council for agreeing to allow the parade to take place in Jonesboro again this year. So we want to just so excited. We had a very good time yesterday. All right, so we're getting into what say what. I know usually I have some other stuff to say, but I got a long say what. You know, that's my special segment that I talk about things that you just say, what? I can't believe that happened. So that's that say what? So that's the say what. So in Washington, D.C., you all saw this, and I know I wasn't the only person that saw this. It took 15 times for the current Speaker of the House, we're talking about not here in Georgia. They only did one time here in Georgia. They didn't have the controversy going on here in Georgia. But it took 15 times. You know, I was watching, and when it got to like the 8th time, 6th time, I was like, wow, that's a lot of time. He just still couldn't get those numbers or those votes. Then I kept watching. Then they had to delay it one day. Then they had to delay it another day. Then they had about 3 or 4 days that it took for the speaker to get elected to be the speaker. And so that's to say what by itself. So he was elected as the 128th U.S. speaker since the office was created in 1789. And it began on January the 3rd, the process of the election, and concluded in the early morning hours of January the 7th. What's that, about 4 days? So Kevin McCarthy of California was elected as the leader of the House Republican Conference. So just so some people may not have understood why it seemed like when you were looking at the numbers, the Democrats had more numbers more numbers than the Republicans. So the way that the speaker is selected is according to the majority votes that are cast according to the party that's in charge. So because the Republicans were the party in charge, they don't have a super majority, but they are the majority in the House. They're not the majority over in the Senate, but they are in the House. And so to be the next speaker, the person needs a majority of the votes from the House members who are present and voting for the majority party. So, you know, there's a lot going on there. A lot of negotiations were going on and compromises were going on. I loved it. That's when you're seeing how democracy is working in America. It's not just because you're a part of a party and they say this is the leader that you got to go with it. Sometimes that happens in these parties. I've seen it personally in the party I've been affiliated with. And so just to see this, I was just excited that there were individuals, for whatever reason, whatever their ulterior motive was, but they practiced democracy and did not practice we're going to go along to get along. And there was still some at the end that actually held out and still didn't vote for McCarthy. So, hey, and for whatever reason, I heard some commentators were saying that the McCarthy was against them when it came down to their races, their primary races. I don't know whether that's true or not, but sometimes when that happens, people still take it personally and they say, okay, I'll fix it. I'll wait. You're going to need my support on the bill, or you're going to need my support. And I'm going to make it either I'm not going to support you, I'm going to make it very hard. And you got to negotiate those terms with me as to what I want out of the deal. So nothing could move forward without the speaker. And that's how important that role is. New members could not be sworn in because they have to be sworn in by the speaker. The House staff was on the verge of not being paid because a budget that starts from the House had to be voted and agreed on. So it was so much on the line with that leadership position that he either had to walk away or he had to give in to those negotiations. Now, there even was an argument on the House floor with one of the other members. I don't know what was going on, but it was a heated debate, a heated argument that took place. So like I said, I watched it, went to sleep, woke up and watched it again because that was just so interesting, especially for those members to hold out their votes like that for such an important position. And so listening to the commentators about it, we were told that this was the first time in about 100 years that this has ever happened. And like I said, for when people are not party driven and controlled by the party. Now, the ones who were holding their votes were able to negotiate, like I said, a variety of terms before casting their votes, and some still didn't vote. So that was to say what? How many times? 5, 10, 15 times to become the House Speaker. Now, I've heard of some people running for office a lot of times. I don't think I've heard them running 15 times. Maybe 6 at the most I've heard, but 15 times. And just even when I think about him mentally, what he had to be going through, the anguish, him and his family, and just think of all those House members that had invited their families down to up to Washington, D.C. to see them sworn in. They had to go back to the hotel, come back again, go back to the hotel. Some of them had to go home. They couldn't stay all those days. I'm talking about 4 days. So it was so much going on with that whole process. And so, like I said, I just was excited to see it. I just can't say it enough. I just was excited to see it. I didn't think I would ever see that, but I was excited to see it. And even though the Democrats were laid back and easygoing, I remember that they had some little stuff going on too with the speaker when she was selected. But of course, not to this extent. But hey, I just was excited. So say what? Yeah, 100 years since the last time that happened. So another say what? Did you know that all candidates for speaker must be nominated by the members of the House? But this is the caveat. They don't need to be elected lawmakers of the chamber. So here in Georgia, in order to be elected as a speaker, you have to be elected from your district, and then you are put before the House members, and they vote yes or no whether they want you to be speaker. But you have to be elected official. Where? Well, through this whole process, which I didn't even know, I found out something new myself, that to be elected or nominated for the candidacy of the House Speaker for the United States of America, you do not have to be an elected lawmaker of that particular chamber. What? So you guess what some people were saying? That they were going to nominate their past president. Y'all know who I'm talking about, DT. to come and be the speaker. Woo, boy, that wouldn't that have been something. But just think, I could have got nominated to be the speaker. You could have got nominated to be the speaker. Now that's amazing. I had no idea about that. So that's to say what? Then let me tell you where that comes from. Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution. Y'all go look this up. It says only that the House shall choose their speaker and other officers. So far, the chamber has only chosen its own members as speaker. So it says that they can choose their speaker and other officers. Man, I tell you, sometimes you don't find out about policies exist or laws exist until an incident or a situation happens. And then that's when they said everything opens up. Can of worms, everything pops out. You just never know. That's a jack in the box there. Woo! That's thinking who could have been the speaker. Wow. All right, that's a say what? Yeah, say what? Okay. My next say what, I told you I had quite a few. I started off with just the one about the House Speaker. And then as things were happening, especially, as we were commemorating Dr. King's legacy and all those who fought in the civil rights movement, some we know their names and some we don't know their names. And we give homage to them for them being brave enough to be, and being born at that time to be brave enough to go through all what they went through, just so that you and I can now, even you all can listen to me on WCEG Talk Radio, that you had the freedom to walk and go wherever you want to go. All of that's because of what those people sacrificed back then during the civil rights era. So we definitely thank them for the freedom that we have today. Yes, ma'am, and yes, sir. So did you know there were speeches after the I Have a Dream speech from Dr. King? And a lot of times I know in school, they would drill us about I Have a Dream speech and also the mountaintop speech. But as I was listening yesterday, I was on Clubhouse, listening to Black Wealth and some Think Tank, one of the programs on Clubhouse. Y'all get a chance, I should definitely listen to. And we had a Reaching Across the Aisle. Actually, we was in the Reaching Across the Aisle Clubhouse app listening, and we was talking about the civil rights movement and reparations. And so it was a gentleman that came on who's one of the ones that has the Black Think Tank program on Clubhouse. So he invited all of us to go over there. So on every Monday at 7 p.m., we do the Reaching Across the Aisle segment on Clubhouse. And then so he invited us to go over. So we went over to that particular channel. And it was very, very educational. Very educational. I learned so much. Some things, but then when people repeat it, you say, oh, I forgot about that. So one of them was those other speeches that I just had forgot about. And some of them I never even heard. I have to be honest. I never had heard them. But in one speech in 1968, Dr. King talked about an act of Congress that gave whites land out in the West. This particular act also allowed for land grant colleges to be built. And these particular land grant colleges taught them, the whites that were out there, to farm land, on how to farm the land. It also provided them low interest loans, but gave blacks nothing. And so in Dr. King's speech, he said there was a willingness of America to give away land, but not a willingness to give anything to blacks from what had been promised. So I'm gonna let y'all think on that just a little bit. So out west, as immigrants came here to America and they moved out west, land was given to them freely. Then they built colleges to teach them how to farm the land, because all that, was new. And provide them low interest loans to be able to even help with whatever else they needed to do on that land. So there was a willingness in America at that time to give away something. And in that case, it gave away land. But there was not a willingness in America to give anything to blacks. And you know, Dr. King also spoke in Memphis during the sanitation workers strike that Blacks should deposit money into Black-owned banks. He said Blacks should buy insurance from Black-owned businesses. Another thing that he said was whenever men and women straighten their backs, they are going somewhere. When you straighten your back up, you're going somewhere. You can move because a man can't ride your back unless it's bent. So y'all don't be having your back bent, letting people ride your back because they'll ride till they break your back. But those are just, even that little part, I'm still back on that whole willingness to give away free land. And we never did, Blacks were not able to get their 40 acres and a mule or anything else that had been promised. Another thing that was mentioned, he said that whites are telling Blacks to lift yourself up by your bootstraps. Sometimes we hear that. But have given whites money that lifted them up to what we see now as middle and high class. So the generational wealth that we see here in America was built off of the backs of the Blacks. And so when you have things like redlining that took place, and y'all heard me, I did a segment about that, I think it might be last year sometime. And redlining, for those who don't know, is that America, parts of America were drawn. They had a red line they drew, and they specifically wanted Blacks to stay in certain areas in America. And in those areas, the banks were told not to give any loans, or if they did, it were very high interest loans to Blacks. Whites didn't move in those areas either. Now they might do some business in the area, but they didn't move and live in those particular areas. So just that alone was a limitation on economic development and the economics and tax base in those areas. Because if those Blacks had to work at mediocre jobs that weren't earning hardly anything, they were always going to stay poor. And so putting yourself up by your bootstrap, first of all, what bootstraps? What boots did you have that you back up and pull the strings up? If they didn't have holes in them and all kind of other things that were going on. So that's to say what? Say what? They were giving out land out west, but wouldn't give anything to the Blacks. Ooh, something else when you talk about entitlement. And that was a super entitlement program. All right, we're going on to our next say what? I know. Woo, I know as I was writing up my notes and everything and prepared for today's show, and you say new year, new beginnings. It's a new beginning for us to think differently. It's a new beginning for us to be able to make those demands, and even those that are elected, that are in office, to make decisions for us. Hashtag do your job. All right, my next say what? Reparations. When we hear reparations, you all know I had Tamara Johnson Shealy on my show last year. And she was a candidate for the U.S. Senate seat. And one of her focus areas was on reparations. And she made it very clear, she was unapologetic, that was her platform. And so she and I, in that particular discussion, talked about reparations. A lot of people hear about reparations, some things they don't understand. I'm still learning. But reparations means repairs. When you think about the word reparation, you get that word repair is sitting there. And repairing what was done to Blacks or descendants of slaves. Nothing was done by America to endow Black Americans with a share of the wealth generated by centuries of slave labor. The same labor that directly or indirectly helped to build most of the wealth enjoyed by white Americans, which is what I said earlier. Reparations are not just cash money. So it's not just, okay, we're going to give them some money. They're going to go down there and blow it, throw the money away, whatever they're going to do. It's not just cash money. It's land and money that needs to be spent on education. I go back to that redlining. You think about it, you all. Why is it that most of the schools that are underperforming, that are Black, majority Black populated schools, are in low income areas? And they always in need of Title I funds, which are funds that the federal government sets aside for local school districts who have kids that come from low income families. And those particular low income families, of course, might not be able to afford, many things. And of course, their education level is below level. So these funds are sent to the school district for them to allocate them out to the local schools for teachers to pay for additional teachers, for tutoring, buying supplies. They even allocate 1% of the budget to go to parent involvement. I don't know who in the world came up with that, with 1% as a percentage to go for parent involvement in low income areas. There are so many challenges that parents have in those areas. Transportation is one. The other one is working hourly job, where maybe two jobs of them trying to get and be involved in school while they're trying to raise their children. So I don't know, and that 1% has been there for, I know, over 20 years, because I was a PTA president at my children's school, and let's say Love is 30, 31. So that's since 2000. That was 22 years. The same 1%. Inflation, everything has gone up except for that 1%. So those are kinds of things, y'all, that we're going to be fighting for, and we're going to be advocating for. These are the type of things we need to spend our time advocating about and for, because the future education of our children are at stake. You see so much violence that's going on. It's because they don't have those stable homes that they need, and they don't have the education that they need. And they don't see any way to how they're going to get it. So those of us who have the ability to be able to advocate and to speak up, come out from behind those shadows and corners, it's time to come out and say, you got to start talking. Because the money that's spent on education, to me, is you repeating, throwing money back into a program that's not working. Not working, because how is it after 20 years, this same school is low income and the kids are still underperforming? Where is the accountability? And it's on both sides. It's not all on the teachers, it's the parents as well. So, and the community. We all have to take a part. Y'all always hear me saying that. The other part with reparation is housing. Did you know, and I talked about this as one of my shows I've done previously, that there was a such thing as restrictive housing covenants. That means agreements, where in certain areas, only whites were allowed to buy houses. And if it just so happened that a Black having to move in there, oh my goodness, all what you know breaks loose. And all of a sudden the whites move out of that community just because they don't want to be living near Blacks. And these are not Blacks that are poor Black. These are Blacks that had a little money, whatever the professional job was that they had. But they had restricted housing covenants. And these are agreements that if, say for instance, I had a house and say I was going to move, I didn't put my house out there really on the market. I had to make an agreement that whoever I sold my house to was going to be white. I couldn't sell it to nobody else. Now that's to say what? That's the restrictive housing covenants. Y'all look it up. So those are things we talk about. Reparations is, the damage that was done with the whole housing market. And it goes back to like I said about redlining. All that's included in that. And it affected the tax base in certain areas. Certain areas have a high tax base. So guess what? The money, that 60% of your taxes that goes to your public school, it's going to be higher in certain areas, because guess what? The tax base is higher. In other areas, it's not going to be as high. Because what? The tax base is not as high. So that's to say what? That's my last say what? Yes, it's my last say what? So we getting on up there, y'all. We all getting on up there. We have about 15 minutes left. I have some announcements, of course, to make. So as a recap, you all, it's important. It's important. I can't stress it enough. And every time I get an opportunity to be on this show with Issues and Answers on WCEG Talk Radio, I'm going to talk to you about your right and your ability and what your responsibility. You have a responsibility to your community and to those young people that you ride by and look at and keep on going. You have a responsibility to your community, to those young people, to do your part. And how you can do your part is you got a voice. You see things not right, get involved with your local government. If you live within the city limit, get involved. I tell you what you do. Find a issue that's important to you, and you track that issue. You follow that issue locally, in your city, in your county, even on the state level. You follow that issue. You're gonna be surprised, I guarantee you, what you find that some of these elected officials, how they voted on those issues. I'm not telling you to find 5 issues. You're gonna get overwhelmed, and you might not even have time to do all of that. But if you find one issue that you're passionate about, that you would like to see change, and you start Googling and tracking that issue, go to your local neighborhood organizations. If you don't live in the city of Atlanta, you have other local organizations. It might be your HOA, it might be another group that's meeting. Go to those meetings and ask about that one issue that you have that's important. Contact your elected officials. Ask them, what are you doing about this particular issue? And wait for a response. They shouldn't take long for them to give you a response. They all got staff people that can look up information for them. So you take it on the local level, on the state level. Contact your elected officials. You have 2 that you vote that represent you directly. Your state representative and your state senator. It's not hard to find them. Go to SOS. Matter of fact, go to mvp.sos.ga.gov, G-O-V. Or you can Google My Voter Page. If you register to vote, put your information in, it will tell you, it will give you numbers. It's not gonna give you the person's name, it's gonna give you numbers. All you got to do is Google it, Google that number, and the area where you live, you'll find their name and their contact information. Reach out to them and tell them about, this is an issue that's important to me. I'm gonna be watching you, and I want to hear back from you as far as what's going on with this issue. And if you don't want to do it by yourself, find some of your friends. Some of y'all talk about everything else. Talk about those issues. Y'all complain about those issues, but I'm giving you solutions on how to get ways so you can get solutions to those issues. So you don't want to do it by yourself, find a next door neighbor. Guess what? Now it's 2 of y'all going to contact those elected officials. On the federal level, don't let them get by either. Because one thing about it, whenever it's election time, you get inundated with phone calls, with text messages, with commercials. When you want to see your favorite show, every time you turn around, if you're on YouTube, every time your show come on, here come on commercial, an ad about somebody want to be elected. So just like they inconvenience you, you inconvenience them about their issue, because they asked to be in those positions. They were not appointed without having to go through an election. So because they were elected, they are responsible for being responsive to you about those issues. And if you feel like they feel like you worry them, tell them why they run for office. Don't run. Our communities need better leadership. They got to have better leadership. Moving into, we in 2023, we don't have time for lackadaisy elected officials. And I'm speaking from experience. I was elected official. I was very active and involved in my community. And not just the area that I represented in Clayton County, 5 cities, the whole county, even beyond the county, the whole state. Even when we had to go to conferences nationally, I was there finding out information so I could bring it back to my community. But I was just one person. So if you all as the voters stand up and decide this is the year that we're gonna hold these elected officials accountable, I promise you someone that's been there too long gonna end up saying, I don't want to run anymore, because now you're putting the pressure on them. They got to deliver. But if you keep on electing them because they had an eye by their name, and I'm not saying all of them not doing a good job. I have good colleagues that are incumbents that are doing a great job. I'm talking about those others that are not. And if you have an elected official that's doing a good job, send them a note of thanks and thank you. Because believe me, some of them get beat up real bad. And so you being able to say thank you for doing a good job. Thank you for your service. It goes a long way. Hashtag do your job. Okay, going into my announcements. The deadline for the nominations for the Georgia Single Parents Award event, the Legacy Builders Award, is going to be this Saturday, January the 21st. Listen, y'all, I know that you know at least one single parent, whether that's in your family. Now, these are single parents that are doing an outstanding job. I'm not talking about no other ones. We're not recognizing them. But ones that are doing an outstanding job, they could be your family member, your co-worker, somebody you work with. You see them struggling, working hard, got to go to them little league games, come back. They got to go to the karate practice, take them to the soccer game. You know, they at the Girl Scouts meeting, and they telling you see them running back and forth. You try to figure out they don't even know where they're coming or going. Those are parents that we're looking for, not just female. We want male single parents as well that are raising their kids. So your co-worker, your family member, your church members, those of you all who may go to church, or someone in your sorority or fraternity, just somebody that you just randomly met, somebody you might follow on Facebook or social media, and you think they're doing a good job, go ahead and nominate them. So you go to https://nationallg.org, and I will put it in the comment section. I've been posting on my Facebook page for the National Single Parent nominations. Listen, this is for anyone who lives in the state of Georgia. Now, if they're in another state, we're not recognizing them. They got to do that from their state. But if they're in the state of Georgia, making sure that you nominate. I just put it in the comment section, the link. So, and I want to thank National Leadership Group. Beverly Brewster is the founder, and of course, dynamic board and our committee members, planning committee members who are working so faithfully, and to Representative Kim Schofield for taking up the mantles once I left the elected office. She's my contact down at the Capitol. So I appreciate all of what Representative Schofield is doing to promote this. Listen, y'all, we need some sponsors. If you want to, you might say, well, I don't know a single parent, Valencia. Well, you might want to sponsor a single parent, or you might want to sponsor, a single parent and their children to come to this awards event. Contact me, contact at ghoststovall.com, or you can also contact me through Messenger on Facebook. But y'all know I'm not hard to find, because if you're here listening to me, that means you know how to find me. So we're looking for sponsors on all levels, so that we can be able to make this an outstanding event. Each year we nominate everyone. Everyone that's nominated is recognized. So, and then we have those who've done a really outstanding job that are considered to be finalists. And so what we like to offer, we let each one of the nominees receive a free ticket to come to the awards banquet. If they are finalists, they get to bring a guest with them. The banquet costs money. So we need your financial support for the Georgia Single Parents Awards event. All right, next, I Am Powerful Teen Summit. All right, so this is the teen summit I participated in for the past, I guess, 4 years now. Yeah, about 3 or 4 years with Dr. Deidre Poindexter, outstanding woman, founder of Change for Hope organization. And this year, she always come up with some great themes. I don't know where the Lord gave it to her, but she just come up with some great themes. This year is I Am Protected. So we're going to be talking with our teens from the ages of 12 to 19 about gun violence, sexual health, and mental health, because we got to protect them from all of those things that are going on. And so if you have a teenager, or you know a teenager, you want to bring a teenager, we accept all of them. It's going to be February the 18th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And guess what we're going to be, y'all, this year? Golden Glide Skating Ring. Yeah, they're going to get the roller skate. So there is a nominal fee of $10, and they have to bring a personal hygiene item. We're going to be giving those items to local family shelters in the area. So we ask them to pay $10 and bring a personal hygiene item when they come to the event. And so we want to thank Mr. Rob, the owner of Golden Glide Skating Ring, for partnering with us. So guess what? After they get through with all our workshops, they get to skate till they drop. Well, at least until Rob closed the doors at Golden Glide. So the Golden Glide Skating Ring, the one that's in Decatur, yes, so that's where we're going to be on Saturday, February the 18th. You all can go to Change for Hope, change the number 4, and hope.org. I'm going to put it in my comment section as well for you all to make sure that you come out. Bring your teenager. You can come too. If you want to come to some of the different workshops that we're going to have, you're allowed to come as well. But we definitely going to focus on our teens. I told you earlier, we have to focus on our young people to make sure that they're getting what they need. And this is one way. Yes, grandparents are able to be nominated for the Georgia Single Parent Award. Now, they have to be a single grandparent. It can't be a grandparent that's married. They have to be a single grandparent. So please, please, please don't forget that January 21st, y'all, it's online. The nomination's online. You click, put your information in, and tell us why you think that person should be nominated. Now, on the Teen Summit, you go online to register, February the 18th. All right. Now, I'm also, I talked last year about being a presenter for the Making a Connection, what's the 411 Clayton County. Well, of course, we meet twice a month. We do a verbal, and we also do it in person. And we'll be doing that until next month, be our last one. We would have already done almost a whole 6 months of training. And what we have been able to do, Sharon and I, is being able to train our parents and community people on how to connect with their local government, with their local, state, and federal government, because it's important. It's important for you to know the ins and outs. And so I'm taking the years of experience I have, the years of experience that Sharon has. We even coupling in the years of experience that Daddy has. We ask them questions. And so they're getting it their firsthand experience and being able to be shown the right way to be able to contact their elected officials and demand what they need to demand for their community. And so the last meeting we had, they attended the Invest Clayton workshop, and we also Invest Clayton meeting, which is appointed board by Clayton County Commission. So we talked to them about appointed boards. Our last workshop was on Habari Ghani, which is Are the Children Well? How well are the children? And we reviewed the official code of Georgia, Title 20. That is the every time a bill is signed into law by the governor, it immediately goes and recorded into OCGA. And those are the codes, which are the laws for the state of Georgia. So you want to know anything about education, it's in Title 20. Title 20. And so we talked to them about the eSPLOST, which is the Education Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax. So the continuation is some of the local areas will be asking the voters to continue that 1% sales tax. So we went over it, what the 8% is in Clayton County, where everybody get a part of that, and one of that 8% goes to the school system. Our next road trip, guess where we're going to? The state capitol on January the 24th. And that's going to be National School Choice Week. So we're going to take them down there to meet with their elected officials. Yes, we already did a session where we showed them how to go in, find their elected officials, state elected officials, their school board members, city council, all of that. But we're going to the Capitol, y'all. So we're going to have them talking about those issues that are important to them. Reaching across the aisle, I mentioned that about the clubhouse on every Monday at 7 p.m. There is a special election in March for Clayton County Sheriff. There's about 5 candidates I saw in the parade yesterday, y'all. And also Jonesboro Mayor, Mayor Day retired after a long term that she was as mayor. We appreciate all her work that she's done. But now there's a special election that has to take place in March. And so there are 2 candidates, Donna Sartor and Pat Sebo-Han, who are both city council members. And then because of that, it opens up a city council seat, which gentleman I know very well, Alfred Dixon, is running again. He was elected previously, and he decided to run for mayor at that time, so he had to give up his seat. So Alfred does a lot with our young people in Jonesboro. So I'm out wishing him the best on that particular election. But guess what, y'all? Time has called us, and all good things must come to an end. Of course, the goal of Issues and Answers, which yours truly, Honorable Stovall, is to educate you on those things you might not think about unless you are in a situation to be concerned. And we want you to be concerned about everything. So if you have any show ideas, send me an email to contact@ghoststovall.com, or you can inbox me through social media. And guess what? We're going to return back on January the 30th at 4 o'clock. So thank you all so very much for listening to me to talk for a whole hour. Woo! I mean, I love to talk, but I didn't know I could talk that long. But hey, that's where it happened. All right, you all have a good rest of your afternoon. Have a good rest of your week. And until I see you all again, stay blessed and be safe.